Hi, this is Timika Chambers with Create a Generational Love Cycle. And basically, this podcast, we're looking at how we can not only leave a material wealth for our generations to come, but how can we leave that inner wealth for generations to come? And so this podcast is not about how we can break the cycle of pain, because as you know, pain exists. There's a generational cycle that exists. If you look at America's history and look at everything that has happened, and you can label it good or bad, but just even looking at violation of rights and, in elderly and racist cultures and gender, even youth, that there's so much that's happened. When you talk about domestic violence, you talk about child abuse, you talk about elder abuse, and just violation of rights. We're not here to focus on that during this podcast. We do remember it, but that's not our main focus. Our main focus is how can we create a generational love cycle. And I believe that we are made out of love. We are love. And so we don't have to look outside to find it. And for me, for years, I knew what love was not. When I experienced childhood sexual abuse, I knew what love was not. And so I was in the search of what love was. And what I have realized in coming full circle here in Oregon, surrounded by beautifully poised trees that greet me every morning, waving hello. And in the winter months, I see these trees standing tall, standing firm, feeling the cold breeze against them, the snow, the changes, the dramatic changes in the temperature. All, it seems dramatic for us, but it's not dramatic for them, because this is nature. And how we, after storms, even when I was growing up, how even after storms, life storms, even after chaos, there is calmness after the storm, and there is calmness in between the storms and during the storms. And Jesus represented that when he was on the boat, and the water, the waves, the storms coming up, and he said, they woke him. I think he was napping, and they woke him, and he said, wait, it's a storm. What are you doing? Are you crazy? And talking in this term, are you crazy? There's a storm. And Jesus, like, do you not have faith? And so for many, and even I consider the coronavirus a storm, but because it is perceived as a storm, because there are heavy winds of death that surround us, because people are losing their life, because there are a lot of things that are coming out of people, because out of the heart, the mouth speaks, right? And so much of what we're dealing with, we've been dealing with for generations. The coronavirus, another virus that has found its way, another virus that is mutating into different forms, trying to stay alive as we are trying to stay alive, that doesn't want to let go, that wants to be here as much as we do. And so I know that all things happen for a reason. And when my mom had uttered the words on a phone call that coronavirus is to help people find themselves, and I was just thinking that, and she said those words, and I was like, you're so right. I believe that, like any other plague that has happened, reported plagues, even in the Bible, and it's not about whether, religion and you believe the Bible is free. It's true. What we're talking about here is truth. And that things do, I believe, happen for a reason. And we can choose during this storm to see evil, to bring out evil, to bring out fear, to let it remind us of what we have gone through, whether it's abuse, disappointment, mother, father not there, uncles, aunts, what they've done to us in the past. Because now we find ourselves, and I know even celebrities have talked about it, being in the house and feeling like there's no way out. And how we see things happening is how we tend to act toward those things, right? How we tend to behave. So if we see that this coronavirus is an attack, that being inside is an attack on our sanity, is an attack on our mind, and on reminding us every bad thing, perceived bad thing that has happened to us, it is our perception of those things that drives us into feeling alone, feeling afraid, feeling as if there's no way out, feeling as if, what the heck, I'm just going to live this life and I'm not going to wear a mask. I'm not going to wash my hands. If it's my time to go, it's my time to go. And again, this podcast is not about blaming, but in all efforts for me, and I hope for you, and I hope the words that I say, it's all about getting to the truth of who we are and what we are here to do. How can you see clearly during the coronavirus? Is that I know medical technology, medicine and technology have come a long way. It has evolved. It has allowed us to treat people when if you look at hundreds and thousands of years ago, we would not have lived past a certain age that we have. I know as a nurse with over 20 years in the healthcare industry that we have, tube feedings to feed people when they're not able to take in food by mouth. We have, we can intubate people and breathe for them if they're unable to breathe. And that even reminds me of today that a few days ago, I saw the headline of someone being, I believe, in the ICU or in the hospital and asking for the coronavirus now that they've tested positive, a coronavirus vaccine. And the headline was, "It's too late. It's too late." And for a while, I even wondered if I should even get the vaccine, right? Because I believe in the body, and you start thinking about all these chemicals. And even in the beginning, my husband showed me a video about this man that was ranting on about how there's a chip in the vaccine and it's going to place under your skin. And you have all of this stuff that can be floating around in your mind and preventing you from doing things. And I did go ahead and get the vaccine. I got both vaccines, the Moderna, and I was scared because I heard a lot about the vaccine and how it was making people sick. And then I just had to think about, just even growing up and prayed. I prayed to God. I prayed and I sought inner wisdom. And as a nurse, I gave vaccines. I got vaccines and didn't even think anything of it. It was just medicine to help my body to basically recognize it so that it can fight it off. And so, there was some nervousness regarding Moderna. As a matter of fact, I scheduled and I think I canceled like 2 or 3 vaccine appointments. And I just said, you know what? Just because someone goes through something doesn't mean I have to. And my mom would tell us that. And I think a lot of the things that we do experience come from our thoughts and what we think and what we see. And are we seeing what we should see? Are we seeing that what happens to one person happens to us? So what I have done, I've been through a lot. I've been through, like I said, childhood sexual abuse. My father was not in my life, and the conversations over the years, it just made me feel like, I'd rather be without than to have my father in my life. I'd rather not deal with the drama, because one thing childhood sexual abuse has taught me is that pain is something that I want to avoid. I don't need the extra drama. And so many times life sinks you into that. Whether you're dealing with your children, you're dealing with your spouse, you get sunk into that. And you have to, basically take a deep inhale. You have to get up from the feeling like you're sinking into this abyss of drama and abyss of the world fears and this is happening and oh no, what if this happened, and trying to take care of kids and trying to do that and trying to do that. And you have to just kind of breathe and say, wait a minute. I want to get off this roller coaster of fear, paranoia, feeling I have to be in pain, feeling I have to be a certain way because of what I've gone through. I don't have to live in fear because I've been molested as a child. I don't have to live in fear or think every man is bad because my father was not there. I don't have to live in fear because of what my ancestors went through with racism and inequality and access to care. My job, my role is to keep my eye on my Creator, that all things happen for good. And it's what you believe that will be what carry you through. And I've talked a lot, blogged a lot about eating healthy and fruits and vegetables. And one of the things that reminded me, I narrowed it down to 2 things in my blog this past week, is that one, too much of anything can be bad for you. That do you know, even eating, and as you know, eating too much fruit. I don't know about vegetables, but they do say that, I read articles that said too much of lutein, which is something that is good for your eyes, that is found in different foods, including eggs, can be bad for you. And so how I can understand why a lot of people, when we talk about food and eating healthy and eye health, how a lot of people are like, well, what do I eat? And I tell people that you have to go within. And it's the terminology that I use in my memoir, Bent Not Broken. It's about cocooning. It's about going within and really getting in touch with your inner being, even during the coronavirus, even as we, eat our food and try to remain healthy in our immune system and boosting it with vitamin C and all our fruits and vegetables. How can you be clear? It's about taking this time to spend time with yourself, to quiet down your mind. And even if your mind is not quiet, just those attempts to really just sit down. Whether you have a deck, a balcony, you have a yard, a garden, to really come with nature and realize the stillness, the strength that nature still has, even in the midst of storms, even with extreme circumstances, that many times trees stand firm and grounded. And that's what it's about, you guys, being grounded in nature, being grounded. If we are from nature, whether you believe from rocks or whether you believe from dirt, then why not become one with our source? Why not become one? If we don't know, whatever you believe in, you may not know what created us, but we came from something. And that something still abides on this planet. How can you see clearly? Spending time with yourself, realizing that you are more than human, that you are a spirit, getting in touch with your inner being, and not so much focus on your form, this outer form. Yes, we need to take care of our eyes. Yes, we need to take care of our vehicle, our body. But everything starts within the inside first. And I know I've read stories about people seeing the coronavirus as a stressful time, that being inside is so stressful. And it's because a lot of times we're refusing to look at something that may have happened in our past, something that we're not fully over, maybe some grudges that, things that we're still trying to explain. And in order to heal, we don't have to know everything. That we can use this time to feel our anger, to feel our fear, to really sit with it and say, oh, I feel angry. I feel sad. And it's okay to say those things. That if you've grown up in a tradition that says, boys don't cry, or, if you talk about your feelings, well, we don't want to hear about that. We don't want to hear about bad news. Bad news is you are not bad news. Every part of you behaves, acts, is for a reason. And this is the time, if you have not done it, you still can. Because that virus is still out there. And I'm not saying become, so many times we want to say, well, a homebody. I'm not a homebody. I like to get out. I like to do things. I want to see people. But what is it that you have not dealt with that will allow you to see clearly? Are you seeing color? Are you seeing skin type? Are you seeing eyes? Are you seeing just the form? Are you looking past that and seeing yourself, the light that is within this world? If there is anger and fear, hey, it's not there to attack you. Your emotions and feelings are not for attack. They are to help remind you of who you are. That through my memories of childhood sexual abuse, I was able to see me, the convictions that I had, that I don't want to do that to anybody. No one should have to feel that way, and how it's brought me full circle in realizing my truth of who I am and what I've been through. And we all will continue to grow. No one has arrived until we are from this place, right? We are here for a reason. We're here to unveil who we are. And so what else can we see during this? We read the headlines, if you're watching the news, about the viruses, the variants, and my family and I were talking today and during our Zoom call that, I don't have to see things in order to believe it. And I know, often we feel like we have to see it. I don't want to believe it until I see it. But when we dig deep in ourselves and the things that we do for ourselves, when we mask up, when we wash our hands, when we stay the distance, we're doing more than just practicing safe protocol. We're practicing loving one another and loving ourselves and say, hey, you know what? I don't know if I have this virus or not, but I'm going to do what I can to keep not only myself safe, my family safe, but also to you safe, you safe, and your family, your generation safe, right? So we get so caught up in, I don't want to wear a mask, I don't want to do all that, I want to be free. Are we really free when we're putting other people at risk? This is not about getting the vaccine, but really dig deep down inside and say, what would love do? Because if you're holding on to fears, as I did, even about the vaccine, even about, being, I like being at home. I like being at home. I like the quiet time. I like the peace. And I also like to get out too as well. I know there's a balance, but if you're allowing fears of the past, fears of if there's a chip that is in the vaccine, fears of someone controlling you, fears of what have been done to other people. When you strip away the fears, what do you have left? Because remember, our spirit, we were not given a spirit of fear, but of power and self-control. So when you strip away the fear, there is power, there is self-control, there is love. And that's what we live for. That's what we look at, what we see other people. We see them as an extension of ourselves, an extension of love. And we do the things we do not because of fear. We do it because we love ourselves. And when I see myself, I see you. When I love myself, I love you. So how can you see clearly, you guys? You can take this time to really go within and strip ourselves and release these fears and expectations, these emotions and feelings that we have, because again, your body is for you. It's not an attack. And whatever you see the world as, that's what the world will be. If it's an attack, it will be an attack on you. But if it is healing, if it is creating a generational cycle of love, your actions will show in what you do. This is Timika Chambers with Create a Generational Love Cycle. You have within you the power. You have within you the love and the self-discipline to do the things you need to do to create a generational cycle of love. We'll talk more about vision. We'll talk more about how you can see clearly this week and create a generational love cycle. Look for me on TamikaSChambers.com, Medium.com. And until then, you guys take care of yourself. There's only one you. And for me, I say that's awesome. Keep safe. Do what you need to do for you and for your generation, your future.